All right, I'm gonna do my best to try to tackle this question when it comes to humidity. Now, all I ask is that you keep in mind that when it comes to preserving your cigars, there's some straightforward guidelines if you don't want to get too nuanced and too detailed into this. But at the end of the day, it does boil down to your specific storage conditions and especially your own preference on how you enjoy your cigars. And there's no wrong answer for that because it's however you like them to be. So at the end of the day, it's totally up to you what humidity you want to keep your cigars in. And I'm just going to share my own personal opinion and what I have found that works best for me, and hopefully that helps you guys out. With that said, my name is AJ and welcome to the Sigmanato channel. If you're new to the hobby though and you just want a quick answer, I've already done videos on this before on quick and simple cigar storage, and I'll link those videos somewhere in here and you can check those out. So let's get into the main gist of this video. We're going to talk about temperature, storage conditions, and of course the relative humidity. First up, let's talk about the temperature that your cigars are going to be stored in and how that relates to humidity. How RH works, RH stands for relative humidity, and what that means is it's the humidity, which is the moisture that's in the air relative to the temperature. So the thing is, as the temperature changes, so is your humidity. So an easy way to think of this is like condensation. So if you reached in your fridge and you grabbed a cold beverage, you set it on the counter, what happens? It starts sweating and building moisture on the outside surface of the can. So this is like basically humidity at work right here. So that's something you can expect, and the reason it happens is because of that temperature change. With that said, the same thing can happen with your cigars because they're holding moisture as well. In general though, storing your cigars anywhere between 65 degrees Fahrenheit to 75 degrees Fahrenheit is going to be perfectly fine for preserving and maintaining them. But here's the catch with how that relative humidity works. The environment you're going to be smoking in, where you're going to smoke the cigar, is definitely going to play a role in how well it's going to smoke for you. So for example, let's say it's a nice summer day, 80-90 degrees outside, so you decide you want to go out and enjoy a cigar. And you reach in your humidor, which your cigars are chilling in there at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. What's going to happen when you go outside to smoke is you're going to realize quickly the way that condensation and relative humidity works. It'll have all the symptoms of a cigar that has too much humidity. And you might get halfway through it and then all these things will start to creep up, like burn issues and tight draw and constantly having to relight it. So that's the thing when it comes to temperature. I haven't really seen a lot of people talking about this. And for me personally, I found that keeping my cigars between 70 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit pretty much works for me year round, no matter the temperature. If I want to smoke outside or take my cigars and travel with them or go anywhere where there's going to be some temperature fluctuations, I found that 70 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit is pretty much like the sweet spot. It's the Goldilocks for the temperature to keep my cigars in. But if you're smoking indoors, let's say, then this won't be such a big deal because you won't have that drastic change in temperature. But I would definitely try to keep that temperature within like 10 degrees Fahrenheit of whatever environment I'm going to be smoking them in. So next up, let's go over the different storage methods and the humidity that you're going to want to be using for your humidors. So first up, let's talk about the Tupperdor. Tupperdor does not need to be heated or cooled or anything like that. You basically have that plastic container and you're going to keep it around room temperature. Obviously you don't want to get it too hot, but if you can keep it around 70 degrees Fahrenheit at room temperature, that's just perfect for a Tupperdor. And when it comes to these plastic containers, they are airtight, so the moisture and the humidity in them is definitely going to be locked in. So you're more concerned with having the humidity get too high than worrying about your cigars drying out and humidity dropping, since it's going to be airtight. This is pretty straightforward. I've done videos on Tupperdors already, but if your temperature for your Tupperdor is anywhere from 70 and up, definitely want to use 62% Boveda packs. I mean, even for the fact that it's airtight, 62% really is the sweet spot for a Tupperdor in my opinion. Because I've used 65% Boveda packs and I switched to 62% and brought the humidity down in my cigars, I found that I didn't have to dry box them, and I can basically reach into a Tupperdor, grab any smoke I want, and enjoy it right away. Hey, you don't have to just take my word for it. You can definitely test this out yourself. Try 65%, you can try 62%, and see what you enjoy the most. Nonetheless, when it comes to a Tupperdor, do not go lower than 62% Boveda packs, and you definitely don't want to go higher than 65% Boveda packs. So next up, let's talk about what percentage humidity you should be using for your wood humidors. Same thing with wood humidors. These are most likely going to be sitting at room temperature. You know, you definitely want to keep them somewhere in that 70-degree range mark. You know, not letting them go higher than 75 degrees, I would say. Now the thing is with wood humidors, and this goes for all of them, you know, like the glass top style ones or the full on wood humidors. Now the thing about them is that they do leak air, and it depends on that specific humidor that you have, you know, how well that seal is going to be. But pretty much leaking some humidity is going to be the name of the game. You can't get away from that. So it's just something to keep in mind and work around. And what you want to do with the wood humidor is you want to find that sweet spot for your cigars, and of course that you are enjoying them in, and find that humidity level. And you definitely want to get yourself a hygrometer so you can, you know, keep track of what's happening inside of that humidor. I'd like to be seeing like 65%, even up to like 67% humidity on a hygrometer. And the way you're going to do this is going to be with Boveda packs. That's going to be your best bet because it pretty much eliminates a lot of the guesswork when it comes to humidity. And I would start off with 69% Boveda packs. It's right in the middle, and you can gauge from there whether you need to go higher or lower. And you can, you know, as you start smoking your cigars and as they acclimate to that humidity, and of course using that hygrometer to track everything as well, then you'll kind of be able to gauge where you need to keep your cigars and if that humidity is working good for you. Also, one thing I got to mention is when it comes to changing out humidity and trying to play with those levels to dial it in where you want it. Now the thing is with tobacco and cigars, they take a while to change in humidity. So, you know, if you swapped out from 69% and you want to go higher, let's say you go to 72% humidity packs, you know, you might not see that change immediately. You won't actually. I mean, it'll take weeks, maybe a couple weeks, maybe even longer, depending on, you know, how far the cigars and the humidity has to climb, whether it's up or down. So just something to keep in mind when you do make a change. You're gonna have to be patient with it and, you know, kind of see how your cigars are smoking over the next, you know, couple weeks, month, maybe even longer. Are they getting better? Are they getting too dry? Are they getting too wet? Keep your eye on that hygrometer as well, and, you know, take it from there, whether you want to go higher or lower with the humidity. And for a wood humidor, definitely want to keep it at a minimum of 65% relative humidity Boveda packs, and you can go as high as 72%, I would say, for a wood humidor as well. So those are your traditional humidors. Use your Boveda packs, set that humidity exactly where you want it, and make changes slowly over time to figure out how you want your cigars to be smoking. The next thing we're going to talk about are coolers and electric humidors. Now, this is basically when you've got some skin in the game and you know exactly how you want your cigars to smoke. It's very specific to your own personal preference, let's say, because you can set that temperature exactly where you want it, set the humidity exactly where you want it, and you're basically fine-tuning your cigars to your preference and smoking environment at this point. For long-term storage, this is great as well. And, you know, aficionados who have been, you know, in the cigar world for decades, they do recommend 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 65% relative humidity. And I think that works great for long-term storage. You know, if you want to age some cigars, and I'm talking about like years, you know, 2, 3 years and up, 5 years, maybe even 10 years. If you're doing that and you're not going to be smoking these cigars, I think that's a great place to be in for them. So personally, I tried this with my electric humidor when I first got it. I immediately set it to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, thinking, you know, that's where I got to keep my cigars. They are gonna be stored perfectly. That's the temperature they need to be in. And that's where I learned that, you know, that stark difference, because I like to smoke outdoors most of the time, and that big change in temperature from, you know, 65 degrees in that humidor, I would reach in there and, you know, I smoke regularly. And, you know, going outside to enjoy a cigar in the nice, beautiful weather, and it's like, it became unsmokable. Cigars would just be way too wet for my liking. And I'm talking about the Needone Humidor, that 48 liter. I did a review on it in my previous video. I'll link it somewhere as well. But that thing is also pretty airtight. I mean, especially once you seal off that little drain hole in the back. And so I had to change the temperature, and that's where I pretty much settled on 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, keeping my cigars at that 62% relative humidity. And so are, you know, I still have cigars stored in Tupperdors, and you know, that's pretty much at room temperature as well. It can range anywhere from 70 to 75 degrees. And both situations are, you know, pretty much solid, man. Like, you know, my cigars are smoking great 99% of the time. I never have any burn issues, and if I do, there's something like so simple, like a quick touch up or something like that. If it's extra cold outside and I'm having a cigar, or it's a extra hot day. Other than that, you know, my cigars have been smoking perfectly year round. Definitely can go with either option. 62% relative humidity at 72 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the spot for me. Like, that is just absolutely perfect for me and my palate. You can see, like, I typically always smoke my cigars all the way down to the nub. If a cigar doesn't taste good in that final third, and then, you know, in that last stretch of a cigar, you get that bitterness and nasty, foul tasting cigar taste, you know, that's when a cigar is too humid. That's something you can always expect. So that tells me that they are just right when it comes to humidity. I said you can store your cigars at a lower temperature, and, you know, if you're going under 70 degrees, definitely might want to think about using 65% relative humidity. I mean, even for this Needone Humidor, I could probably go with 65% relative humidity depending on the time of the year, you know, especially when it gets colder. But you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I don't think it's worth it to try to swap out different, you know, Boveda packs. I'm already running 62%, and, you know, for the most part, it's been perfect. So I'm not even gonna mess with it. I like where they're at right now. And, you know, that might change in the future, but so far, so good. One last thing is, if you are gonna change the humidity level of your cigars, just keep in mind that it could take weeks, maybe even months, for your cigars to acclimate to the new humidity level, and for you to start to notice the change in the quality of the cigars as you smoke them. So just don't expect a drastic change immediately after changing the humidity level. Once you're able to lock in your temperature and your humidity, it's good that probably the only thing you really have to think about and consider, the only factor is going to be, you know, the smoking environment. And, you know, it's really good when that's the only thing you have to worry about. It takes out all the other guesswork, and you can figure out how to dial in your cigars to get them smoking perfectly. So that about wraps it up, guys. If you got any questions or anything like that, leave a comment below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you guys. I'll catch you on the next one.